Well, hello everyone. It is so good to join you and see you all again. As you already know, my name is Jordyn Orozco and welcome to Nom Watch Review. On this program, if you already don't know, we review the latest throwbacks or any new and up and coming shows that have previewed movies, all that wonderful stuff. And I have two beautiful guests with me today. One I know very well. The other one is the first time on one of the shows that I'm hosting. And so today, before we get into what we're watching, if you don't know from my background, I'm having a wonderful, wonderful Mai Tai. I feel like I'm the only one that's always like drinking and shoveling food in my mouth whenever I host. Oh my God, I love it. Look at that. It's an alien.
Oh,
I figured it was appropriate.
Oh, it is massively appropriate. And I love it.
I love it.
Yes, I love it. But like I feel like I'm always the one that's like shoveling like I have a burger. I have a vegan steakhouse burger. And then like I'm just shoveling food in my mouth the entire time. But this is Nom Watch. This is Nom Watch. This is Nom Tot Network. So we gotta just freaking do it. Anyway, so that's what I'm eating. Alejandro, it is good to see you again, sir. What are you doing? What's up with you? What are you nomming on?
Oh man, I'm spoiled. Like one, I mean, I get another episode with you. I mean, this is like four within like 2 weeks. And we have Mabs over here. Like I haven't seen her in a long time. Of course, it's an episode with us, but I've never had the pleasure in a long time, other than to being on the show with you. I think it's been a couple times. But regardless of all that rambling aside, I got some delicious Sprite to the side. I have some Spanish rice, a little infused green salsa in there because my butt definitely has to go with some homemade chips as well. So,
Nice.
oh, and I got some Mike and Ike's. I gotta have this in there. So I'm ready. I'm ready.
And is it the citrus kind? The citrus or the tropical one?
Yeah, the original one. It's the original citrus. So definitely. Yeah.
Good job. Good job. Marianne, hi. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Nice to have you on the show. I can see you're an Alien fan just like me, so I'm so excited to get in this conversation. What are you munching on? What are you drinking?
I am being kind of basic bitchy and having vodka and cranberry soda, which is great and lovely. What makes it super fancy is it has black lemon bitters in it. Very, very good. Highly suggested. Can really kick up any vodka beverage.
That sounds yummy, and I want some right now. But I want it in that cup. If it doesn't come in that cup, I don't want it.
It's the greatest. So fast rewinding back to the very beginning of the pandemic, it was during Alien Day, April 26th, which is LV426. And I did a really stupid short video of like mixing a drink in this big thing and made a joke about, don't break quarantine. Remember what happened the last time. And it was great. It's one of my favorite cups.
That's phenomenal.
That's a great cup.
Beautiful.
That's a great cup.
It's awesome. It's beautiful, and I'm in love with it.
It's a cookie bar.
What? That's what I love in a person. Somebody that sees multiple uses for one item. I love it. I love it. I had a cookie jar that was a shark, and when you would open it, it would go dunna dunna. And I used it as a drinking cup for a while. So you know what? It was great.
Okay, but Jaws is my favorite movie. So
I think I still have it, but
Producer
it's like somewhere. Yeah, it's like
the
somewhere.
greatest movie.
I do. I had it, and it was like a shark, and then the jaws would open up, like the mouth would open up, and it was a cookie jar, but it was holding a surfboard, and it was broken. The surfboard, like I'd munched into, but it was like one of my favorite things. We used to use it.
That's amazing.
So we're already getting some comments, which is great. I'm excited for comments. I'm the one who nerd says Prometheus, or a safety course in what not to do on an alien planet. Absolutely.
I'm gonna take off my helmet and touch this thing that I don't know what the fuck it is. Still mad to this day.
And I'm gonna talk to a weird alien worm, and then just try to pretend like it's a cat, it knows.
You're gorgeous. Oh, you're gorgeous. You're a fucking idiot.
And then I'm the one who nerds about Mary's cup. Says Marianne wins. No one was competing, but she wins. And then Bill RW3 says, "Gonna need another barrel." Yes. So if any of you all don't know, we are talking about 2012's 10 years ago Prometheus, which was the prequel to all of the Alien movies that came out. And the wonderful and talented and amazing Ridley Scott directed this. He did Alien. He did a bunch of other horror films as well as the other Alien iterations that have come out. And I was so excited when this movie came out. I'll give you a little bit of history. I was telling Marianne before we started this stream, but basically, long story short, I have this terrorizing moment or traumatizing moment in my childhood where Alejandro, I think I've told you this. My dad used to sit me down late at night and watch horror films when I was like 5 and 6.
Yeah, we discussed this. Yeah.
Yes, and so it was like Leprechaun. It was like Friday the 13th. It was like Nightmare on Elm Street. And the worst one was Alien, right? For some reason, this movie terrified me when I was a kid. And it was like Alien, and then it was like Alien 2, and then it was like Resurrect, all that stuff. And then as I grew older, so I was traumatized, had nightmares. And then as I grew older, I started to love horror films and I started to love being scared, right? And then if you go back and watch Alien, it still has that like iconic horror film feel, but I'm not scared of it anymore, obviously, because I'm a grown ass adult and like I watch scarier films. Like psychological films have to scare me now, like to the point where like I question my own existence for 2 days. But like when I heard that Prometheus was coming out, I flipped out. I was like, yes, I need to go see this in theaters. And when I saw it, you know, watching it back then, I was like, this is amazing. This is an awesome movie. And then watching it again, I was like, I have some things, I have some comments, but you know, with the background and everything, and I think Marianne too, you're gonna have a lot to say, and you can correct me on a lot of the alien lore that sort of like exists between now and what has shown up. I will say it is probably one of my favorite film franchises of all time. I absolutely love Alien. I think, you know, there's just been so many movies that have come out that have made this franchise what it is. And so that's just a brief background of like my experience with Alien. Marianne, let's start with you since you are wearing the Wailing Corp shirt, which I'm pissed off because I threw mine away. Why did I throw mine away? I like it got too small and I couldn't wear it. But like, what is your experience with Alien? What is your experience with Prometheus? How did you get into the franchise and how did you get into this film?
What's really funny, and the thing that I always love to bring up when someone else talks about, well, it was my dad who got me into sci-fi and stuff like that. It was my mom. My mom was obsessed with creature features. She grew up in the Bay Area in California, and so that was a very big thing for her as a teenager, was getting to watch those. And she introduced me to zombie films and Star Trek and like everything genre. That was what we would do on Friday and Saturday nights, was sit there and watch X-Files together and stuff like that. So I saw Alien at a very young age on a VHS somewhere sometime and was just kind of like obsessed from the get-go. And that sort of has continued this love affair with kind of everything Ridley Scott has done other than Exodus, because we don't talk about Exodus.
We don't talk about Bruno on this channel, ma'am.
So to set the scene for seeing Prometheus the first time, I'm also a Ren Fair nerd. And I am at a Ren Fair that my former partner and I used to put on in South Lake Tahoe over 2 weekends. And the movie was opening during one of the weekends. And I'm like, guys, we have to go see it. We got to get together a group and we have to go see it. And it was not playing anywhere within like a 2-hour radius. And we drove to see it for a midnight screening. It was not a great experience.
Oh no.
I dragged these people to see this movie because I was so excited that, guys, this is Ridley Scott. He is coming back to the franchise. And it was a total letdown for everybody in the group. So that really sucked. And I think watching it yesterday was the first time I've seen it since then.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think, you know, it's because it definitely was
that face you're making. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sitting there watching it by myself, just going, oh man, no wonder they were all so pissed at me after I did that. Because I was seriously for days just going, guys, it's Prometheus. We have to go. Because all the trailers were amazing and the posters were amazing. And there was no reason to believe that it was going to not be amazing.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job with marketing and promoting because there were so many horror fans that were already a fan of the Alien series, as you are, and as I begrudgingly, not begrudgingly, as I was traumatized into liking the Alien franchise. Um, and then when this came out, I think for me, I was excited as you, but I knew that this was going to be a prequel movie, and I know prequel movies are usually a letdown, like in some form or another, except The Hobbit, right? Like I know that like usually prequel films, I'm not going to expect the world. Like, I'm not going to expect Alien. I'm not going to expect that. But I did go going in with high expectations, and there were things that I was like, that, what was that? Why is that happening? What, wait, hold on. So that I do agree with you. It was a little bit of a, like a letdown for me in a lot of ways. Alejandro, what about you? Sorry, I just caught you with a mouthful of food.
Oh no, you're
What was
worried.
your what was your experience with Prometheus? What was your first things? How was it introduced to you?
So basically my introduction to the Alien franchise has been sentimental and yet different in regards to the term chronological order. And what I mean by that is basically 7-year-old me used to live in a limestone house in Alabama, 5 acres away from the nearest human being. So Dish Network and my family was the only communication I had. So basically, one time, I got low key like TNT, some kind of like Monster Vision attachment. Monster Vision is my introduction to a lot of films lately as a kid, or a lot of the horror genre. But my introduction was Alien versus Predator, and so at that
Mm.
time, being AVP, I found it fascinating. I was like, oh my god, these are two massive. To me, that was my Godzilla versus King Kong, because I just didn't. I was like, this is great. So immediately, the action franchise toys were out at Walmart all the time, and I remembered being 7 and Easter time was coming, and they asked me what I wanted with their Easter bunny. I was like, I want AVP Predator toys. And lo and behold, that Easter bunny went through and got me some AVP Predator toys. I was like, these are freaking badass. So that's what kind of was kept me. I always had imagination going on when it came to it. My hat is a mixture of the universe right here. So you got the Utani USMC, Wayland Corporation, mixture of stuff here. So it's a collaboration of the universe of Alien. So my franchise, my introduction to it was all comic books and action figures, whatever it was released and was allowed to. Fast forward, producer Steph, being the amazing individual she is, during one of her introductions to her, I was actually at one of her premieres when she did some reality TV show called The Doll Life a few years back. And pretty much we were at an art gallery that was showing some really badass alien paintings, in bright neon colors and so forth, really really detailed. And it was in a set of 3. And we just met. I just introduced her, and I wasn't very sure if she was interested until the following day. They showed up my door, and she was like, "Here." I was like, "Oh, right. I guess we're, I guess we're gonna be okay." So in general, I get a lot of sentimental values with a lot of the Alien universe, so to speak. In regards to Prometheus, I'm sure we're about to talk about this. My rating is based off of how they attempted to connect the universes together, and I think they were successful. However, my complaint is it was done sloppy like and fast, and there were tons of WTF moments. And to me, though, which I'm sure we'll go over, and I'll go right back to you, its saving grace to me was once again its ability to connect things finally, and the fact that heroine they had in this freaking movie was an absolute badass, considering that she comes from a trio of the Girl of Dragon Tattoo series. The fact that she plays so many damn, what I would say bodyguard characters, or I'd say stoic, like very, very prominent, if not female, genderless characters on multiple occasions, where she is just a freaking badass. And I do think, yeah, there are some actions that she did that went, but essentially, I do think her acting helped a lot immensely, along with the cast as well too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we'll keep it at that for now. I'm sure we'll go over next, but yeah.
No, yeah, let's talk about that because I forgot how star-studded this cast was.
Yeah.
Like when I went back and watched it, I was like, "Oh, they got some big hitters in this." So I think you're talking about Numi Rapace, right? Who
Yeah.
I love, who's amazing.
Yes,
She's
100%.
beautiful.
Thank you.
She's awesome. She's great. And then when I saw that she was in this, I was like, "Oh, like right, like it's gonna be a banger, right?" And then you have Logan Marshall Green, who cutie, love him. was did sorry, I should know this. Didn't he play Bane, or he played he played no, he didn't play Bane. He played some. I'm thinking of
He's not
somebody else.
Bane.
Yeah, he was not
Um,
Bane.
No, yeah, I don't know why I just said that. He played. I'm trying to figure out what villain he played. Oh, he was in Devil. Did you ever see that movie Devil? He played the guy that
Oh
I think
yes,
he
Elevate. Yeah.
that
Oh my God.
yeah, that he had to
Yeah, he was the bad guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you
Yep.
have Michael Fassbender.
That was right. I was
Hello?
trying to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have Michael Fassbender. You have Charlize Theron, who I'm like, love Charlize.
She was originally going to be Shaw. So
I could see
imagine that.
that.
Like she was
That
originally
would
going
have
to be
good.
Shaw, and she had to dip out because of scheduling on another project. And they offered her this other smaller part, and she jumped on it once she figured out she could. And it's interesting to rewatch it knowing that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually
Mhm.
really interesting. But I also feel like she gave Vickers the character that it needed to be. And it like that plot twist in the end where you're like, oh, I see why you're like a bitter person, right? Like it was
Yeah,
amazing.
but
You
that's
have
a whole thing. Like that's a whole character that we could do a whole episode about,
yeah,
because there's all these theories about who she really is and what she really is and why she does what she does and says what she does. And it's sorry, keep going. Keep going.
absolutely. No, like you're absolutely right. There's all these characters that you're like, you literally just introduced them for 2 seconds and now we're back to like it was just it was so you have Idris Elba who plays the captain of the ship, who come on, it's fucking Heimdall for Christ's sake. You have you have Guy Pearce. Hello, Guy Pearce playing Wayland himself. And then you have all these other actors, Sean Harris who plays Fifield and all that stuff. So I forgot, like I haven't seen this movie probably in about, I would say maybe 5 years. Like I haven't really like watched it. I like gave away the DVD and like I was just like, oh cool, it's a movie, blah blah. And then when I had to rewatch it, I was like, this was a lot of star power in this film. Oh, and let's not forget Benedict Wong.
Uh-huh.
Hello.
I
I
know.
was like,
I was about to say,
forgot
yeah,
he was
yeah.
in it. I was like,
Baby in this movie.
he's a baby, and I'm like, holy
The
crap,
amount of
like
it's yeah.
insane. And I but so let's go back to Alejandro's comment where I think knowing what I know now, because since you said, oh, Charlize Theron was supposed to be Shaw, I could see that, but I think Numi Rapace gave it a little bit more breadth. I feel like she gave it a little bit more. I feel like without her, the movie wouldn't have even garnered what I rated it. Only because
Yeah. I agree.
her acting was so pivotal and so phenomenal, even from the beginning, right? Like from jump. So for those of you joining us, spoiler alert, it's 10 years, too bad. So basically
Sorry.
yeah, right. Sorry.
Whoops.
Basically the movie is the prequel to all the Alien series. It is about how these engineers, which they're called in the movie, basically seeded Earth and created us. It started life on Earth through a substance that they created, right, that we learn later on, is meant to use and evolve life, but also can destroy and kill it. Which we see a lot with Fifield when he falls into it and it like burns his face. We also see that it can kill people, like the biologist who gets obviously like an early face hugger, like worm like thing that like goes into his esophagus and like does all that stuff. And so this movie basically tries to explain the origins of Alien itself. And it does a mediocre job of doing that. There's a lot of open-ended questions that like I had like watching this movie. I was like, that doesn't explain anything, right? Like that doesn't explain okay, so it basically was almost like, how do I put this? It's like almost doing like the Scarlet Witch comic book version. Like you throw in like god level powers where she can just erase like reality. And in this one, it's like it's a substance that just got created and we don't know how it got created by these engineers, but we also don't know where these engineers came from. But we're also going to explain how it kind of show how it evolves like life forms really quickly. But then like we just turn into like monsters that can just ultimately kill. It was the weirdest thing. But I think without Numi Rapace and a lot of these cast members, the movie wouldn't have been what it had been for me. What do you all feel about the acting? Let's start with Marianne. What did you feel about the actors? What did you feel about the casting? How did you feel the acting went? Besides the plot, right? Like, which we'll get into, because I feel like we'll have a lot to say about that. What did we feel about the actors, Marianne?
I totally agree. Even knowing how much I love Charlize Theron, she was not at the point yet where she could carry it the way that Numi did. It would have been such a different role for her. If she had done it maybe 3 to 4 years later after Furiosa, that would have been something to see. But like right at this point, I think that was the right casting choice, honestly. And I am still really torn about whether or not I like Michael Fassbender as David. It's tough because we had these two wonderful performances in the previous, well, more than two, but all of these fabulous android characters in the previous films, that it kind of felt like, I don't, I get it. He's the first one. He's supposed to be a little off and supposed to make you feel not as comfortable as the other ones. So I guess that's okay. That works. But it's just a little too perfect and shiny clean for me. I wish he had had like some kind of motor tick or some kind of thing that wasn't perfect, because I think that would have worked better. And yeah, it's a really good example of how important casting is in a film like this. Whether or not the plot works, question mark, the cast is what can really carry a film. And I definitely think I liked it better watching it yesterday than I did the first time I saw it.
Yeah. Look, now you caught me with a mouthful.
Oh,
But
sorry.
yeah, no, it's not your fault. Just I was like, I didn't eat, and I was like, oh god. I think actually, now that you said that, it kind of enlightened me in like the robot characters. You're right. He was a little too polished. Like he he was watching what was it, Lawrence of Arabia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yep.
he like had like bleach in his hair. He like could throw a basketball. Like it almost seemed like the only flaw he had was the fact that he basically was morally flawed, but also robots don't have morals. So they were just like, oh, I was just seeing what this experiment would do. And
But
Shaw's
was that
husband,
morals, or was that how he was programmed? Because we know that all of the future androids
Yeah.
from Wayland all have the same kind of basic programming to protect this life form. And sure, maybe this is the first time we're seeing an android meet one, but at the same time, he immediately is trying to protect it. Like he doesn't give a fuck about the humans.
yeah.
He's like, yep, sorry, I'm sorry you want this alien baby out of you, but I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to ship you off to cryo. Sorry about that.
And I kind of appreciated Shaw's line where she was just like, what's going to happen to you when he's not around to program you anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, and then he like, but he had a comeback, but then it was like, it made you think like, shit, like, that's right. Like, what's going to happen? Like when he's gone. But, as we see in the Alien movies, you're right. Like they all are programmed to protect this, like this being, this entity, this alien who's not human. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Alejandro, what did you think about the casting? What did you think about the acting? I know you have strong feelings about Numi Rapace, which I totally agree with. What did you think about all the other ones? I honestly loved Idris's character. I think he was great. Even Benedict's and the other person that was the pilot in it. I thought their characters were pivotal. I thought they were much needed. There were some that I was just like, why did you, like, for example, the biologist and the geologist? I was like, why were you there? Like, we could have had other characters that could have done that. And I get that, like Pfeiffer mapped the ship and mapped like the place that they were in. But I almost feel like their characters were obsolete, like they weren't necessarily needed. But anyway, Alejandro, what did you think about the casting of the characters?
Well, I mean, in that last point you made, it's Alien. When I consume the Alien franchise, Predator franchise, or I call like the Fox Alien concept, or what I say extraterrestrial franchises that come from them, they need body counts. I'm gonna be honest with you. That ship
Sure.
was loaded up with. I was looking at the massive ship. And then personally, and not to get away from what you're talking about, because I'm about to go right into that concept of the acting and casting, because you do have like Wong, Igor, Eldra, you have a lot of the crew over there that's kind of part of the maintenance crew up there, which some happen to be biologists. And there was, and then one of my gripes with it too was, even though the acting did a fantastic job of keeping me enthralled within the situation, there were situations where there was a biologist wanting to take a flamethrower, and you don't realize that he was actually a defense guy that happened to know simple mechanics of certain things to actually scan the area, and it made it sound like he was a scientist. In reality, he wasn't. He was just ready to fucking torch shit, which in reality would have helped. Don't get me wrong. But even when you have brief moments, like for him, for example, he was with the dude that wanted to pet the snake in the freaking alien substance, but that I totally disagreed with. But even dude that was wanting to, once again, oh look, she's gorgeous, let's go ahead and pet her. And before I did the whole classic, she bit me. It was more along the lines of like the crazy situations when they're all sitting down and talking in the pre-flight, about the land, and understand that why the Wayland / Utani Corporation has them out there, hypothetically speaking. And so, as they're out there, you even see that each and every interact. And most of the time, it's not vocal, it's physical. They're scared shitless. You see them unsure. You even have what I call him classic biologist cowboy with the flamethrower. He's sitting there even joking around the fact that you're saying we're out here on a hunch, and not the fact that you showed maps, you sure, but do we have any other like evidence? And there's not a Space McDonald's out there or like a Best Western. They're literally screwed unless you go back to cryo sleep. You know what I mean? So that being said,
Space McDonald's, a Space McDonald's.
I
love that.
Element.
I want to make like a mixed Star Wars burger, like I don't know. But the whole point about this is that you think about it, and going on to, when you guys were talking about I joke around and call them replicants, but the actual concept of the androids that are out there, which it's interesting because both of you made an excellent point. The flaw that existed wasn't necessarily a moral compass, but more along the lines of loyalty to a father figure and approval, because he didn't have a soul, nor did the previous androids supposedly have it. But his obsessive concept, ironically, was looking over somebody so he could reflect how a human thinks. But for him, a human thinks like what was on television, or she said North Arabia, what was going in that situation there, which he, creepy, like got copied to the whole classic, 40s to 60 haircut going in the back. I mean, it was accurate in that regard. But like I said, the acting concept to see even him acknowledging that, all right, cool, humans are what I was obsessing over, but here, low key, he knows that somebody's on the ship, Wayland, and he's trying to go ahead and like find the next step for approval. In this case, and this is just me, this is just a theory. Well, then again, when they did say that he was afraid of dying, and when it came to the concept of him trying to find a solution to this, it was insane. But he was so trusting over these engineers that he allowed that sucker just to lift him up. I mean, just by the neck initially, like, oh, you're sweet, hi, and just moments like those. I mean, when it came to the acting, it's fascinating. Like going back to talking about Idris Elba or Wong, I'm going to call him Captain, because that brief 5 minutes of like bravery that whole crew showed, going into knocking that freaking ET ship out of the sky, like borderline got me excited and emotionally teary-eyed. I was like, this moment, like hands up, I was like, oh my god. And like they were all for it. They knew what they had to do. And don't get me wrong, they weren't necessarily agreeable, but you saw the processes of emotion transpire through the eyes. And the thing is, once again, they all probably had, excluding Idris Elba and his conversation with Charlize in regards to like emotion and relation and human contact, of what their motives were being there late at night, whether they were actual there or actually because they're attracted. But the concept, even those brief exchanges, they're not, I mean, technically I still feel as if there was not really a main character, even though like I believe that there's so many good moments. But I once again, in short, so I don't digress too much, the acting is fantastic, and I'm going to be straightforward. It's the only reason why I have this a 4 out of 5. We're going to talk to some other things, and I'm going to complain, but I'm telling you right now, that's the only reason why I was like, yay, I'm ready for this. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of loopholes that I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, okay, so let's just do our ratings now, so that way we can get them out of the way, and then we can talk about plot, we can talk about story, we can talk about all the shitty things that were wrong with this film.
There's
there's a lot. Marianne, what would you rate this film? What would you give this? How many popcorn buckets? 0 to 5.
I
what?
gave it a 2.5. And the reason I gave it, in my mind, a high score is because, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is you have a rating system. What is your rating of a 1? What is your rating of a 5? What is your rating of a 2.5? For me, it's kind of like watchability, how rewatchability, how much it could influence other films and how you accept them, find new things from them, stuff like that. For me, I love every bit of design in the film. If I just muted it, I would be the happiest person ever and just watch all of this beautiful concept art, all of the influence from Giger, just everything, all of these amazing conceptual pieces and the costumes and the sets and the special effects. That for me is really what keeps this film in a higher score for me personally.
Great. I love that. Alejandro, what would you rate this film?
Mine's a 4 out of 5, but like Matt said, my rating system is a little different. Mainly, my stuff is on storylines and usually the backing and foundation. So there's a lot of trash movies out there that I would give what I consider like a 3.5/4. But mainly, it has to be the acting or directing, saving it for me. Now I will say, Matt said that visually is stunning. Like I can't, even if you hate the franchise, you're like. Yeah, I mean anything from nature to the concept of outer space. Who says outer space is not nature? You get the point. The fact is that everything from mountains to oceans to even the aliens themselves was awkwardly like gorgeous. Which now I think about it, and just a slight little pause from there. What I don't want to digress. I'm sorry, but anyway, 4 out of 5. Yeah,
You can. You have full permission to.
Okay. Because like our major, our complaints, which have been like very, very valid, have been like, why do people do these things, and why did they introduce it this way when they could have did this way, and a lot of crazy things, right? And essentially, to me, I felt like I was invited to a steakhouse, and I got to smell all the great smells, and I got to have the great wines, but the main course of dish, the meaty portion that I got. In my head, I was expecting a 12-ounce ribeye, and I got it shrink down and cooked down to a well done, 5-ounce sirloin. And it's not like it's bad, but at the same time, okay. So what I mean by this is like, okay, I know the history of Alien, right? We're fans. We're fans of the history of Alien. But for example, why the aliens look the way they do, all of a sudden something that's keyed in my head. So if we're thinking about Prometheus and how things were made, right? So the theory in this was from, badasses were saying, hey, there's possible hint of life in this other area, which happen to be engineers that have the same genetic makeup as us. So therefore, they could be making us, which there shows some history around multiple parts of the world. However, there was also a hint of wondering who made them, right? So these things that we say look mighty close to xenomorphs at the moment, look like space squids, right? But when they take over the engineers, they are in that form right behind you, which is a more fluidic design, a copy of an engineer or of an engineer. However, if you go into every single alien, AVP, and so forth, whatever the alien takes over, its body almost looks like a hyper-extended version of what it takes over. So if you think about xenomorphs when they take over humans, they have the skull that's translucent. Everything else is, from the rib cage in there. Obviously, it's different, but it's mocked up a human body. When they took over Predator and AVP, they took over Predator form. So I guess in a sense, to me, it's showing that they are an evolving, murdering creature. Therefore, they would, like you said, they give life, but they also take it. So it just seems like they just specifically made to morph according to the environment. Because also going off the book series, if I get technical speaking, these things in history are literally like made to live in space. They're made to like live near the sun. It's stupid. I mean, the way they evolve and what's going on is gnarly. So, in a sense, I think somebody either did it on purpose to make theories come out like crazy, like what I'm doing right now, because I don't fucking know. But I mean, but once again, that's another thing because we don't know once again why they're there. We only know that they're here because of what they were created. The silicone little jars are now full of liquid. I thought they kind of were like a if you're comparing things to like Matt's badass popcorn bucket there to traditional egg format compared to like being a alien made sphere. It's like Mother Nature compared to man made. it's like they were actually biological weapons, which they say in AVP. But once again, I see this is the reason why I don't want to say anything, because I'm just going to keep going.
But there's several hundred years of evolution between this film and when you get to that stuff. Like what we think of the xenomorph egg, that's way in the future, because this film is supposed to take place in 2091. So then you think about how long it is from this film to when we first meet the Nostromo, and it's a long time. And we established that xenomorphs, they take on certain elements of the host. And what we think of as the traditional xenomorph with the long head and the secondary mouth and all of that looks an awful lot like the engineer's armor, like the space jockey's armor. So what was that armor based on? Maybe they fought that thing and absorbed that thing, and that's why they look the way that we are used to seeing them.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I rated this film 3.5 out of 5 popcorn buckets. I think I love this. I love being like, I love talking to people where they're like, but this didn't make sense, because then I'm like, you're right. Like, this isn't something that I think about, because usually I watch films like this by myself and then I scare myself and then I'm like, oh, this is great. And then you don't really think about like in a good way. I love scaring myself. It's great. But like, you don't really think about like the more like intricate parts of the film, like versus when you're watching it with somebody that's like a fan and then they're like, did you see how this like didn't work? And I was like, well, no, but actually now that you said something, right? And so this is really great. So God, there's so much to unpack with this film. For me, you're right. I think it was a weird thing where when the xenomorph, so the precursor to the xenomorphs, like this guy behind me, came out of the engineer at the end of the film, right? Like you see it come out and then the mouth extends, but it doesn't have the thing that's actually inside the mouth that we know and love from the xenomorphs from Alien. I was like, okay, like that makes sense. But then now that you're talking about it, you're like, these aliens evolved from the engineers, and then all of a sudden somehow they got off planet, or they killed off the engineers, right? I haven't seen Alien Covenant. I don't know if there's like a explanation for that in that movie.
You should watch it after this, just because.
I mean, I don't.
Totality, finality. Yeah, watch it.
I know. Okay, I feel like so it's on things where it's like $3.99, and I'm like, do I want to pay that? And I'm like, yes, I do, because I've never fucking seen it. So I'm gonna pay it. I'm gonna watch it, and because I really want to know like kind of how that evolves. But I think for this film, so for me, visually stunning. Most of this was filmed in Iceland, right? Like it was filmed over there. Like all of those overhead shots that you see in the beginning and the intro, like it's like a traditional movie where you do the credits in the beginning, like brief credits in the beginning for, the director and for the producers and the writers and all that stuff. Beautiful. And then all of a sudden, boom, we pan out to a waterfall with this huge alien spacecraft. And you're like, obviously this is Earth. And then you see one of the engineers drink a liquid, which is the liquid, obviously, that, for them, when they drink it, it dissolves them and it basically breaks down them from the very minimal, or the smaller parts of their atoms, DNA, all that stuff. But then when he lands in the water, the DNA molds with the water molecules and all of the bacteria that's in them and creates DNA. And that's where we form, that's where they formed us. But apparently, and this is sort of what I got from the film, apparently we were a mistake, right? And that's something that you sort of get, and that you sort of get a feel from when David is talking to Holloway, and Holloway says, well, we basically said, well, we made you because we could. And then David says, well, how would you feel if your engineers said that we created you just because we could? And I was like, don't say that. Oh my God. And because you go down a thing, right? Yeah. And then you have Shaw's character who's truly religious, who truly believes that we were created in God's image and all that stuff. And, people question her throughout this entire film. I think the thing for me was like the smaller things where it was like, these characters that didn't really, you're right, there needed to be a body count. But would it have mattered if they died versus like if somebody who discovered the liquid, who we don't know where the liquid came from, all we know is that Idris Elba came in and was like, this is a military camp. Like they made this, what they left it here. They fucking left because they were like, fuck this shit. Like we don't want anything to do with this, right? And you can even see it on the mural, like when they get into the first ship or like the first thing, you can see it in the mural that Holloway discovers that they knew that these creatures could get formed by them, right? But you don't really see that, and they don't discuss it. There was just a lot of loopholes and a lot of plot holes that I wish that were filled. How all of a sudden, like, why did the and I don't know, so sorry, I haven't seen Alien Covenant, so like, why did the engineers, like, why are they so hateful of us? Like, they're like, oh, look at you, and then they're like, oh, fuck all of you, we're gonna kill you, I'm going to Earth, we're gonna just bomb the fucking place and destroy all of you, right? Like, why was that a thing, right? And I think watching this, there was just so many like plot holes that I just wasn't satisfied at the end of this movie. It was great, but I was like, this movie was not what I thought it would be, and it just, there were holes in a lot of it. So let's go to the plot, let's go to the story while we have like about 10 minutes left to discuss this. Marianne, I want to hear from you because I feel like you have a lot to say about this, and especially about the plot, and I want to comment on it. So please let us know. Please tell the audience, please tell everybody, how did you feel about the story and the plot?
Well, I think what you said was it wasn't what you were expecting. I think that was the general consensus from pretty much everybody, even though it gave us exactly what we were promised going in, which is we're going to talk about the origin of the xenomorphs. And they did pretty much. And anyone who, not that anyone here did, but anybody who complains about the amount of faith and questioning our makers that is in the film doesn't pay attention to Ridley Scott's work, because that's like the main thing throughout every film he has ever done. He questions what it is to be human. He questions what it is to have a soul. Most of his most endearing and enduring characters struggle with that. Like, think about Blade Runner. That's the entirety of Blade Runner. And we get a lot of that in this film. And kind of seeing it from the extreme of, here is somebody, an android, trying to grapple with what it is to have a soul and not just be what his father created him to be. And then Charlize Theron's character, who, if we believe she is his daughter, or maybe she is also an android, we never really get that answer. So it's a very interesting study, again, in what makes someone human, especially when faced with giant scary monsters. And I mean, that's not really the plot per se, but it is kind of the plot of the entire film.
Yeah, I think so too. I think a lot of these films, especially like the Alien franchise, they make us think about, like, I know this is going to sound super like general and super like woo woo, but I feel like it makes us think about our place in the universe in a way where it's like, these people have created these beings that are supposed to make us feel safe, and make us feel like, you know, they can do things that we can't, but also they're supposed to be like us, but they're somehow like metahuman, right? But they also have some of the best epiphanies that I've ever heard in any film franchise, like ever, that I've watched, like about humanity specifically, which is like, goes to your point, like it makes people think about like humanity and all that stuff, and like question things, right? Which people who don't necessarily do that in general, like when they watch a Ridley Scott film, they're like, oh, right, and like mind blown, right? And I think, you know, as a young person watching Alien and watching, you know, the franchise, like I didn't get that shit, right? Like, but watching it now, you're like, you're like, oh, that's scary. Like, that's even scarier than when I originally watched it, because I thought the aliens were scary. But in reality, like, we're scared, right? Like, and
that's
it makes
the whole point of Aliens, is to show us that. Like, what's the line about the only species that fucks over each other for a percentage? You know, that's the whole point. Mm-hmm.
Right. Alejandro, what did you think about the story? What did you think of the plot? Do you feel like there were holes? Do you feel like it was, you know,
I mean, there are definite holes. I mean, there are definite holes in the plot. I mean, and those holes, I think, one, if it comes to, if we're talking about franchises and having to make money, we also have to understand that, of course, there's studio decisions, things come out, not necessarily everybody agrees with the scripts and so forth as well. So we definitely get that, those, so we totally understand, as fans, that shit happens. So there's a lot of outside factors to certain things that happen, and we accept certain amounts. But there are enough plot holes rightfully to be frustrated, especially in the Alien franchise, the combination of the Predator franchise, AVP. But in a sense, it seems like there's a lot of reaching out, trying to fix things. But I don't think there are enough to really really frustrate me and push me away from this. However, when I saw Prometheus coming into this, to be very 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 upfront, I had no idea it was a prequel. And I think a lot of people didn't either when you just are looking at, let's say, let's go on to say the commercials, the advertisements for it, the promoting concepts to it. It was a brand new movie made by the Alien director in an Alien universe. So like there was a lot of unknowns coming into that. However, if we're going to go into a little bit more in the storyline, how things are created and the concepts of, questioning makers, creations, who the individuals are, where we come from, who we are in moral society, who we really are on the Mother Nature food chain. Are we really the most intelligent, life form out there in this world? And I think about it, and just this came to mind because both of you guys just hit the whole moral compass or the moral concepts of multiple characters, whether it's going to be the engineers, whether it's the human beings that are there, whether it's going to be our protagonists or supposedly antagonists that were questionable androids. That being said, it starts to make you double think things in the first place, because one, us as humans trying to figure out what we are, we're constantly trying to figure out where we come from, and if not, it's always about the what if factor. And for the first time in a long time, and my chemistry teacher did this. I love my chemistry teacher so much, and I think this is the reason why I appreciate the Alien franchise. We see a sci-fi franchise saying that there's a possibility, a combination of science and religion, and they understand that something out there beyond there is what they can't explain, what science can't explain to them is a mystery, and that's what the heroine, she's there just trying to figure out where we come from.
Contact did it better.
Say what?
Contact, Jodie Foster, Contact, that did it better.
Can we
will
please
agree.
do
I'm sorry for the satellite
That
dish.
is one of my
we will talk about that satellite dish scene as well. I will go fully into that. I love
one of my
Contact.
favorite movies of all time.
That's one of the greatest
fantastic
movies ever made, and
I love
die
it.
on this hill.
And producer Steph will remember look at Contact, because one, I'll make a reference to another movie that goes into moral concepts and so forth, is Equilibrium. So like once again, coming into like genetically come from soldiers is just insane. But like if you think about it, good old America and a lot of parts of different countries in existence have came to be because they were questioning the big brother and where we're coming from, and doing a societies that brought up for that reason. I mean, we discovered the engineers, like you said, Jordyn, looks like they don't freaking like us at all. They look like they hated us. In fact, they even mentioned the amount of storage facilities / eggs that were in there in that ship that was being transferred over. It looked like they were trying to send it over to Earth. So that mistake they were trying to correct. I'm not a mistake. My mom and dad said I was on purpose. The point is that, like, the point is that, it does question that. You do question who the big brother is. I mean, we then come to find out that if you are a fan of AVP, they already established that technically predators use aliens as a concept of hunting, how to perfect their hunting skills. Their whole concept is just making them badasses. But then we also find out that they're actually okay with human beings as long as they help them limit the amount of accidents that happen out there. And coming with the concepts of the engineer, yeah, I know, right? Coming up with the concepts of the engineer, it just kind of capitalizes on that. They were created to eliminate things, and like, I don't know, I just find it ironic, and at the same time, I find it ironic that the engineer falling in the water as he was falling victim to an alien, and it makes me wonder, like, how dangerous is H2O to these creatures? But then again, they swim through it.
No, he did it on purpose. He did it on purpose. Like he knew what he was doing. And the other thing is, like, were the engineers really pissed off about humans, or did they just want to continue the experiment? Because that's how I look at it, is that it wasn't necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had one
that-
bad egg. That's essentially what it was. So
Literally one bad egg. Boo. Boo. Bad. I
didn't
didn't
mean to
even
do that
know
on purpose.
I like rocks once.
Hence
My favorite
Marianne's
line
laugh.
from all of Prometheus is geologist yelling out, "I like rocks." Like still to this day, I will yell that out because it makes
I
no
like
sense.
rocks.
Like, why does he do it? It's funny.
It is. It is. I think overall, so we're gonna do like last tidbits for this movie. I think overall, you know, minus the experience that you and your friends had, Marianne, I think like I would show this to
I don't
somebody
have
that
any of
like
them anymore.
like,
This movie lost
I-
me friendships.
no, it's terrible. So here's the thing. I would show this to somebody like maybe in chronological order. I'd be like this one, and then I'm gonna do Alien Covenant, and then I'll do the Alien series just to see like if it makes sense to them. And then if they watch it and they're like, why was Prometheus? And then I'd be like, okay, that was probably not, the right move to do. But overall, I think this film, it had its moments where I was like, this is badass, right? Like, this is awesome. We didn't even get to the part where Shaw gives herself cesarean with the machine, and like, God, I was the whole time, and I'm not biologically a female, but the whole time, like this whole part of I was like, oh my God. Even in the movie theater, and even to this day, I'm like, what is going on? She's like shooting herself. Anyway, I feel like this movie is worth a watch once, and then that's all you ever need to see it again in your life. I feel like it's not good. It's not something that, like me, where it's like I had to buy the DVD immediately when it come out and like watch it, and I was like, ah. But I feel like this is like worth a watch once, and then you're like, cool. Like I feel like I don't really need to see that again.
What's interesting now is with a show like oh my God, I just completely blanked. The one on HBO with the crazy robot that just got canceled, that was one season, Mother and Father. Why am I blanking on it? I write about it all the time. Oh my God. Raised by Wolves. Raised by Wolves.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So watching this after watching Raised by Wolves, it feels more of an in-universe thing. So it's kind of cool that I wonder if people who have just gotten into Raised by Wolves will find this and maybe be more interested in it than they were when it first came out, just because it's kind of that type of thing where it's religion, it's
now
science.
you have to go watch that now.
You should totally watch
it. It's really good. It's so good.
It's amazing. It's a shame it got canceled.
I'm pissed that it did get canceled. Like, I'm pissed.
So angry.
Maybe we can revive it.
Right? It's like everything's bad. Yeah, and I feel like even though it was Ridley Scott, even though it had some of that magic in there, it was still like, and so to quell this, I did go in thinking that it was a prequel film, and I knew that I was like, I'm not gonna expect like aliens. I'm not gonna expect that. And I was still a little disappointed, but at the end of the day, I think we all have to just realize that it is a prequel, and it is something that's like, it's trying to explain something, and I think it does its job in a way where it's like, okay, some of the things that we had questions about are answered about it, but I feel like if there was a little bit more time, because it's only like a 2-hour movie, I feel like if there was maybe like 20 or 30 minutes like more into it, there could have been more that was done with this film, and there could have been more that was elaborated on in this film. But you have to remember, this is 2012, right? Like, we're in 2022 when films get bigger budgets and they get longer run times and all that stuff, where do all that stuff. What are some last minute thoughts? Alejandro, we'll go with you really quick. Last minute thoughts on this film.
Like I said, they could have gone a different direction. I didn't, like I said, the big thing for me was acting. That said, did a lot. There were some things in which allowed my theories just to go on in my head. Essentially, that's where they were big 4 out of 5. However, it wasn't the storyline that helped. It wasn't, wasn't their, amazing directions of some of their, let's say, of their directions what they're going in general. There's a lot of questions, a lot of loopholes. I won't even go there. Once again, I'll keep a 4 out of 5 right now. I'm gonna shift to the 3, just thinking about some things. But I'm gonna stay steady 4 on it. Yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Definitely. Final thoughts, Marianne. Final thoughts on this movie.
I still am not completely convinced that Charlize Theron is not an android. Like I'm not. And every time
But
she's
she died.
did she? We don't know.
The ship just
We don't
fell, and
know.
that was it.
Yeah. We saw freaking David get his head ripped off, which is apparently what happens to all androids in
The
this
popular
universe.
thing, huh?
But like we don't know. And some of the things that she says throughout the film obviously point to that, and whether they're there for misdirection or because he's letting us know that yes, she's an android. I don't know. That's still one of the things that I would love to know. I'm gonna stick with my score. I do think I like it a little bit more than my score indicates, but there's just as a film, there's some things that need to be fixed and addressed before I can up my score.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, friends, it was awesome meeting you. It was awesome seeing you again. You all were great. I'm so glad I had some awesome like alien fans that were on here to do this. Again, we were doing Prometheus, the 2012 movie Prometheus. Watch it once, don't watch it again. You don't need to watch it again. But I just wanted to let everybody know that is all the time we have left to talk about it. You all were great guests. I hope I get to see you again sometime soon. Alex, I have a feeling I'll see you sometime like 2 or 3 times this month on any films or things that I do. Marianne, I hope I get to see you again to do a film. You all are awesome. Where can we see you, Marianne? Are you on the socials? Are you on anything?
I am editor-in-chief at nerdbot.com, so that's the best place to find me, nerdbot.com.
Nice. Alejandro, where can we find you? Where are you on the socials?
A couple things in regards to just the acting creative count and trash talking count. Pretty much, you can find me on Twitter at Crimson Cowie, the color Crimson, and then my last name Cowie. A lot of random shenanigans, daily content at I am Cowie on Instagram. That's IAMCOWIE, and Facebook. My name. That's all you have to look. That's all you have to do. Real simple.
It's great. It's like one-stop shop. There it is. And as you all know, you can find me on Instagram. I'm not really active on like any other, but Instagram is City of Stars 13. I post a lot of funny stories. I don't post a lot of funny posts, so. But yes, it is all good to see you. So don't forget that Nom Watch Review and Basic Binges are now in podcast form. You can listen to them anywhere you get your podcasts, and usually it's available and free when you can listen to them. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Twitch. All of our platforms are at Nom Talk Network. I would like to give an especially awesome and amazing shout out to our producer, Stephanie. I love you. We love you. The Xenomorphs love you. All the androids love you. Wayland Corp is right
She's
behind
kinda
you.
great.
Yeah, she's just amazing. So
I love her.
in every cinematic universe, you are awesome and amazing. We love you, Stephanie. Other than that, please let us know what you would like to see in the comments, what you would like to talk about, if there's any other thing that we are going to discuss. Tune into our next show, which is going to be Basic Binges. Stranger Things Volume 4, the season finale is going to be Monday night, this coming Monday night. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. It's all the feels. It's all the amazing things. I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to cry. I love that show. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Jordyn Orozco, and I hope you have a nomorific night. Goodbye.